Mhm. I am waiting because last time it got me. Hi, everyone. Monica Henderson here with MinkLife Motivation Live. It got me again. I am so excited to be here with you on this lovely Wednesday. As you know, we come to you live and direct to talk about life, business, branding, and networking. And to help me have this conversation, this week we are talking about how to expand your leadership to be wealthy. And I have brought along some special co-hosts and our usual gal pals. So this week we have Andrea Gewirtz, who is the Wellness Thrive Strategist at Wellbeing and Worth at MinkLife Motivation, a master trainer, and she is the Dean of MinkLife University. Andrea, hey girl, hey.
Hey. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So, hey.
Yes. And we also have Peggy McCarthy. She is the owner and photographer at Headshots by Peggy. She is also a headshot strategist and a MinkLife Motivation trainer of the Brand Builder. Peggy.
Yay, I'm so glad to be here.
And we have a special guest today. She is the CEO of Leadership with Laura. She is a leadership accelerator and a master communicator, and also a 3-time world champion martial artist. Laura Armstrong, welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here. Hey, you guys.
Hey, Laura. Nice to meet you.
So, what's so fabulous about us getting together every week is that it's not just the four of us here gabbing, although it is entertaining because we just hang out and chat, but you as the viewer can also chime in with your questions, comments, and rude remarks. We take them all, and you're just going to drop them in the chat. We will see them, and if you do it while we're live, then you'll actually get an opportunity to have your quotes answered right on the screen. We'll be talking directly to you. This is an inclusive experience, and so I'm so excited to be here with you again. If you're watching this live, you can put hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay, and we will go back and communicate with you after the show. So with that, let's dive into our topic for the day, and it's time to get motivated. I love it. So Alana always shares our lovely question. And Laura, because you are new to this topic, we won't drop you right in and fires down. We'll break it up for you a little bit. But the question is, why should we define what wealth means for ourselves? And so because Andrea is the resident well-being and worth expert, we'll start with her first. Andrea?
Yep, I knew it. So why should we define what wealth means for ourselves? Well, you know how I feel about why questions. This is, you've watched 2 weeks in a row, I have get a little itch, why questions just are so subjective. But in this case, that subjectivity is actually really good. Because wealth can mean a variety of things. Most commonly, people think of abundance and lots of money. However, in the well-being and worth paradigm, it really is a lot of conversation about how are you feeling in your mind, body, spirit? Who are you in total well-being? So I definitely have my clients define their wealth or their abundance from a very self-centric sort of whole person way. And it does include money because I often find that in particular, the women or the people that I meet, when they talk about wealth, they only think it's money. So then I kind of pivot and turn it. And we do the same thing at MinkLife, that wealth is really in abundance in a lot of areas. At the same time, I find us women, if we haven't been brought up to talk about the financial, and Peggy was really, really gunning for it last week of talking about health and wealth, because every time there was a health question, she brought up wealth, and I was like, yeah, go Peggy, because her wiring was really about that financial independence too. So it is a both and. I don't think it's an either or, and it's an all-encompassing thing that you must to thrive. This is where Monica and I intersect. Really have a vision of what that looks like for yourself. So super important that you figure out what it is for you and your family and things like that. Because there's not one way to wealth, just like there's not one way to health. So hope I didn't take too long to say that.
No, you're good. All right. Laura, did you want to jump in or should we have Peggy go next?
Yeah, I can totally jump in. I love what you just said. I really feel like there's a lot of levels here, right? So I guess at the core that we should define our wealth because it connects with our why and who we are as human beings. And that can change throughout our lifetime, right? Because we evolve as we go through life. There are different needs we have, different things that resonate with us. Our energy changes, our vibration, and wealth becomes something very different. It means something very different to me now than it did in my 20s when I was very much more materialistic, right? Whereas now it's more about wealth is a bigger package of things. And money is a big part of that for me because money allows me to help more people. Right. And I just really agree with what was said because it's just a part of the wealth. It's just energy. It's just one more thing you can tick off on the list that means wealth for you. So I think it's really a bit of a soul searching question, about what does it mean to ourselves? And I think that connects with our why and in turn with our personal and professional lives, with our mission, our vision, and what we want to offer to the world and what we want to leave in it when we're not here. So love that question. That's just a little bit about what I think of that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes,
you fit right into here. You fit right on in.
Right on in.
All right.
Right on.
Peggy, what about you? You want to chime in on why should we define what wealth means for ourselves?
Did you just ask me if I wanted to talk? Well, I think like the way I was raised that, loving wealth or money was evil and you shouldn't chase after it or go for it or try to become wealthy financially. But I think when you have a mindset like that, then that spills over in every area of your life. Just like when you have an abundance mindset, it spills over in every area, your health, your relationships, your family, all of those things. So as Andrea pointed out last week, I kept saying, we were talking about health and I was talking about abundance and everything. And it's the same conversation because wealth, the reason it's important to define what wealth means to you is you really need to look at it and think about how do you feel about abundance? How do you feel about being healthy? Like some people think that, they want that crutch of, oh, poor me. And how do you feel about your finances? Some people are scared of having money because they don't know what to do with it. So when we're honest and we define where we're at and where we want to go, then we can grow and get the education and the knowledge that we need to actually live the life we want instead of just avoiding the subject altogether and sitting in a corner like, no, I don't want to talk about money. I don't know what's going to happen if I have money, so I'm just going to stay away from it. So I think it's important that you really define what wealth means to you and where you're at today and where you want to go. I hope that was in line with the question.
Absolutely. That was definitely in line with the question. It was spot on, actually. In the reason why MinkLife Motivation exists, right? The whole reason why we exist is to help people reframe and re-understand what it means for them. So we always talk about design a life for you, by you, healthy, wealthy, and fulfilled. And I think it's because, the reason why that statement is so powerful to most people, and also the reason why I said it over and over again and made it a part of what we're doing, is because for so long, we've let other people define what wealth means to us, right? Society tells us we're wealthy if you have so much money. Your family considers you wealthy if you're doing a certain kind of a job, right? Your peers, if you have a certain kind of a car, you're wealthy, right? And what it all boils down to is wealth is as unique as the person who has it, right? And so you can be extremely wealthy financially and have a lot of money in the bank, but have zero time. And if money is what you want, and then that is considered wealthy. But if time is what you want, that is not considered wealthy. In it's actually the opposite of wealth. So really having a moment to define what your definition of wealth looks like. What does it look like when it's the good life, right? Like, oh, I could just live the good life we're all going after. If you can sit down for a sec and identify what the good life is first, then your actions after that can be directly related to that. There are so many people in this industry that we have run across who in their career, they were, like Laura was saying, chasing after the material things because that was what we were all told we should do. We should try to be as wealthy as we possibly could, or don't be too wealthy, just be good enough, as Peggy was told in her family. And most of us ended up in hitting a wall of like, what am I doing with my life? Why I'm not happy? Even if I've achieved that success, I'm unhappy. And so by redefining what wealth looks like to you, you're really kind of setting yourself up for a healthier and more fulfilled life by just redefining that little piece of what wealth means. How'd I do? I do okay?
Yeah,
I
all
almost
right.
don't know.
started screaming, preach it, and clapping, and like I was hard to stay in my seat. I was like, "You got it. That's it."
Yeah, as you can see, Laura, we have a good time. It's just, folks hanging out and chatting about different things. And so we're so happy you're on this show today. And here to have this conversation. What I love about having these kinds of conversations like Facebook is that they happen in our Zoom calls, right? Like Laura and I connected directly just like this, and Peggy and Andrea and I, we all have these conversations about what people are talking about and how they're crazy, right? But no one has these kinds of conversations out loud. So that's exactly why we come together. But another reason why we come together is because we do want to help people in their own lives stay inspired, right? And inspiration really is about kind of staying encouraged and moving forward. And in our understanding of staying inspired, I would love to know, how did you guys redefine wealth for yourselves? So Laura kind of talked about it a little bit, but can you kind of elaborate, like what did that look like? How did you actually redefine wealth for yourself?
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking about
Yeah, awesome. That's a really interesting question because I think there's so many facets to us as human beings, right? So for me, wealth, I still think about my bills every month, like all of us. Like I still, I have a number in my head that I'm going to reach by the end of the year. And, and I really feel like whatever wealth has redefined you for, you need to own it. Because I think a lot of the time too, we have an idea up here, right? And I talk about this when I teach like my leadership courses. Like if you were the world champion of your business, what would that look like? And I think that we have some idea, oh, someday, I want to be on Oprah or whatever it is up here, but we haven't really defined it. And so what I did is I went in and I'm like, okay, if I'm the world champion of my business, I've been the world champion of martial arts, what does it look like for me? So I looked at my leadership. I looked at what my financial situation would look like at that level, where I was personally in my life, was I more involved in philanthropic activities, like the 5 pillars or whatever you want to call it. That allowed me to redefine what that was going to look like for me. And that's where I'm heading, right? If you asked me this question probably 30, 40 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, I want a Corvette, right? It was much simpler for me then, right? And but now it's so much bigger. And the thing I love about it is that everybody's included in that. So when I redefine my wealth, I'm including everybody coming along for the ride to redefine theirs. And because if we can help others do it, it helps us help them, and that ripples out to the world, and that's what I'm talking about when I'm redefining my wealth.
Love it. Love it. Be the champion of your business. I love that so much. Peggy, what about you? How did you redefine your wealth for yourself?
I think that's a great question. So I think redefining your priorities, what is wealth, what is important. Money is important to me because when I have money, I can do a lot of stuff. I can help people, I can put things into practice, I can move things forward, I can help other people achieve their goals. Without money, then I'm just kind of a sitting duck, hoping hoping and praying to eat and pay my own bills. So I guess when you redefine what wealth is for yourself, it's what kind of a person do you want to be? I mean, it's okay if you just want to take care of you and yours, but maybe you want to have the ability to make a bigger impact on your community, on your country, on your world. And maybe you don't, but that's your decision. But again, I'm going back to the whole fear thing. You shouldn't not step into wealth because you're afraid of it. You should really have a conversation with yourself. What do you want your life to look like? Like Laura was saying, what does that look like, and what steps do I need to take to get there? And realize that wealth encompasses every area, your relationships, finances, like all these things, health, all have to do with the wealth that you decide to live in. And I think that's really important.
So, what about you? Like, what is wealth for you?
What is wealth for me? Wealth
Mhm.
for me is living in a place where I can be financially secure. I have enough finances to help others and not be like, oh, I wish I could get involved in that, but to really make an impact and help others. And a big part of wealth is, to me, is my family and my relationships. The fact that I have a solid, loving, peaceful, secure place that I can call home, to me, that's wealth.
Yes, that's lovely.
Love that.
Andrea, what about you?
Oh, this is a loaded one. How have I redefined wealth for myself? Well, I love what Laura and Peggy said. Laura, about like different times, different points in my life. Yes, I thought different things about what it meant to be wealthy. I love that you wanted a Corvette and I wanted just a convertible. I wanted to
Nice.
drive down the highway, hair everywhere, maxing and relaxing in the convertible. And once those things were achieved, I kind of was like, now what? And so that just pushed the envelope of what that abundance mentality was. And so I have at various points had to look at my health and my family's health as the intrinsic wealth. I think that's what motivated me. It's a big unconscious why for my business is that health issues really short circuited some people's lives, because there wasn't this wealth of knowledge for them or an abundance, a wealth of knowledge for them to have alternate pathways and have alternate options. So that really, really made me look at my own health. How was I living in my own health? Because to Peggy's point and to Laura's point, if I didn't have my health, which both my mother and father lost their lives really early, there was no wealth then to be generated. Like there was nothing, they were no longer here. And whatever they had acquired up to that point, I love Laura's little bit to legacy and things like that. So first and foremost, I mean, my relationship with my body and my family's overall well-being with their issues, I feel that they are wealthy because they live in whole bodies that really work well. And from that, to Laura's point, when your body is working well, you can accomplish, and the ripple effect outward, because you're vibrating at a higher frequency, attracts more opportunities and things to you because you're well and living in a well body. And more importantly, you have the energy, the vitality to make a difference in other people's lives. So again, it comes back to that, your cells, and making sure that they're doing their thing so they can attract the energy and the abundance that you seek in all the other areas, lifestyle, the convertible, and of course your bank account.
The convertible.
We could have shared car rides. You could have come in my Corvette, and I would go in your convertible.
It didn't matter what kind. I wanted to be in a convertible at all times when the weather was good. It didn't matter. I was like BMW, VW, Porsche, but somewhere higher.
Dude, bring it on.
So our audience is chiming in. So we had Irina Sturina, who's a regular guest on the show, and she says, great topic today. And Yo says, hey, beautiful beings, with a heart emoji. Hey, guys, let us know what you have done to actually redefine what wealth is for you. We would love to hear from you. So as far as myself is concerned, this whole program actually started from me asking the question of what is wealth, period. Like literally, when I was, that homeless single mother trying to figure my stuff out, I had to ask myself the question, what do you want? And the 3 words, healthy, wealthy, and fulfilled, came forward. And then I had to figure out, well, what does that mean? And I redefined what wealth meant for me, because typical 80s kid, right? Everybody was wealthy, right? You had to have a big, suit with shoulder pads out to here, and a car phone, and a Corvette, and your briefcase, and you should be living lavish lives with trips here and there and first class flights. And that is what I thought was wealth, and, know something about some kind of stock or something or another, right? Like those were the things that kind of defined what wealth was when I was growing up. I mean, especially as an 80s kid, it was everywhere. Those were all the cool people. And so when it came down to it, and I'm sitting there and I'm like really kind of looking at like, okay, I got to figure out what wealthy looks like for me and this kid, right? And why that looks different than what everything else was. And I came to realize for myself that wealthy is not money. Wealthy is time, right? What they have that I don't have is time. They have time to take those trips. They have time to actually, go hang out with their friends and do this, that, and the other, and not have to think about money in the process. So when I really kind of understood that, oh, wait, it's not the money itself that is the wealth, but it's the time that they get because they have money, then it kind of completely changed my thought processing. It completely changed how I saw wealth, because what I want to do is not necessarily go to rager parties or like jet set with like boring people, but more so get to spend quality time with the people that I love and get to have experiences, like actual experiences with people. And that became my new definition of wealth, which then changed everything else in how I worked, right? So then I stopped looking at the purses and the shoes and the clothes as the wealthy part, right? You're not wealthy because you have those things. Those are just things. But more so, what am I doing wearing those things? That's more wealthy for me than the actual items themselves. And then it becomes different. Well, if wealthy for me is about having experiences with people, like going on a Thelma and Louise road trip with my friend Andrea for my birthday for a week and just popping into different hotels, or, being able to just kind of like, hey, Peggy, I'm coming over and we're just going to hang out. We're just going to do whatever. Then that to me felt more wealthy. And everything I work for is to give me space for time, which then I became more efficient about how I used my time. I became more efficient about where I spent my money. And then I also was looking at like how my money can work for me differently than what it done before. So we have an audience member who has popped in. Wealth redefined for me is healthy, active, fulfilled daily life with financial stability that allows me to do whatever I want when what I want to do when I want to do it, as if it were the last week to live. Yes, she puts there, and I agree with the yes. Time is what the wealthiest commodity. Absolutely, right? On our deathbeds, we don't, I should have made another million, but we do really kind of want that time that we didn't get to have. And so that became my my focus. And Yo agrees with that as well. And then Irina had put earlier, I don't know if it flashed on the screen, but she put, you can buy almost anything but time and health. And so that is her definition of wealth. And I love that as well. Thank you, fourth and fifth co-hosts, our fifth and sixth co-hosts in the chats for kind of chiming in on this conversation. Really appreciate you. If anybody else is watching and you want to chime in, feel free to drop in what wealth means to you, how you've redefined wealth for yourself. So my job is to keep this train moving along. And so it is time for us to keep networking. And the question for right now is who, right? The key number is always who should we connect with to increase our wealth as a leader in business, right? So who should we connect with? Does anybody want to dive into that first? Anxious for that answer?
I'll start. Yeah. So we got some Ron Stoffer wisdom coming at you. So yes. as a child, I was always told you have to be careful who you hang out with because, who you hang out with is the attitudes you're going to pick up. If they get into trouble, you're going to be guilty by association, all of those things. Well, that was a really good lesson, and it applies to every area of our life. I think the study or the thing is look at your 5 closest friends, and wherever they are is where you are. So if you want to be wealthy, then you need to hang out with people that are wealthy and define wealth in the same manner that you define wealth. If to you wealth is riches, then you need to be networking and hanging out with people that are financially wealthy. If wealth to you is health, and you need to hang out with people that are health minded. If you hang out with people that don't care about health, don't take care of their bodies, then it's going to be hard for you to be in that environment and take care of your bodies. The same way, if you hang out with people that don't take care of their finances or their wealth, then you'll pick up their bad habits and also make bad decisions. And so you need to network with the people that you want to be like, that's the energy level you need to hang out with and be around and surround yourself with.
So freaking true.
That's why I hang out with Monica.
It's so true though. I was thinking about the sum of the 5 people when I was in any kind of dysfunctional pattern, right? All of my friends at the time were in the same dysfunctional pattern, right? And then when I started hanging out with Andrea and Peggy on a regular basis, then my patterns shifted to being focused on health and being focused on wealth and being focused on, family, and, so I think it's so spot on. Thanks, Peggy, for jumping in right away. Laura, what about you? Do you have some thoughts on who you should connect yourself with as a leader in your business to kind of really, expand your wealth?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think what it comes down to is it's now a society of impact and influence. It's not like a one and done. It's not like, we had a conversation and I bought your product and we're good to go. It's all about building an emotional connection to the people that you work with. And I don't care what anybody says, because I'm happy to be judged. I love that kind of stuff. But you are a leader if you talk to another human being. That's just the way it is. Whether it's your opinion or it's what you do for a living or it's your family. Leadership is something ingrained in us as human beings, but how we tap into it is really what's going to show up in the world. So what do you want it to look like for you? So I think if you want to shift your leadership, and I've been through this many times, from being, and you have to be willing to be loved and hated, because equally they have a useful function. right? And that function is visibility. And so the haters will hate you a lot and the lovers will love you a lot. But if you're willing to have it all, right, and not care about what people think and still move forward, but embrace all of it and be enough space for it, you will move up the law of the lid, as John Maxwell says, right? You will shift the people that you're working with. I don't have a lot of haters in my life, or maybe they talk about me behind my back, which is great because I end up making more money. I don't care, right? So the fact of the matter is I'm willing to have things however they show up. And so to move my leadership as a leader up to the next level, yeah, you're going to be changing who you're with. You're going to be with more influential people. Your message is going to get across to the world bigger. You're going to be seen as an expert in your field. And I think a lot of the time, just like you said, Monica, be willing to be seen. Expert doesn't mean you know it all. It just means you know more than someone else. There's always something to learn. I'll tell you like a quick story. You know, I would go with my students to the Philippines, and I would take them back there to train in the country of the origin of Filipino martial arts, which is what I did. And a lot of that is impact and edge weapons and hand-to-hand combat. It's very male-dominated. So all of my teachers were male, but it didn't matter. They saw me as a human being who wanted to excel. And so they would take me aside and they would push me. And then I would go home from this trip, and all the senior students were like, "What did you learn?" Because they thought I got like the secrets to the universe or something, right? So then I would take them and I would teach them, right? And so they're moving up, right? And so then they would teach the students variations of that. And so it taps into your legacy. So moving your leadership is creating your legacy. And it's also how much more you're willing to be seen in the world. So I don't think we realize how unstoppable we are. And that's what I want for everyone, to step forward into your legacy and step into your leadership and have it shift and change. Because, you know, as a 10-year-old kid, you know, leadership meant that I was running the tag game at recess. Like, it was a whole different mindset, right? How have we shifted as human beings over all this time, right? And how much more can we have? So like, that's what I think about it. I think it's a great topic.
I love it.
I was like, I don't need to say anything. However, I mean, because, you know, we like to run our mouths here, Laura. You're a new BFF because preach! You just preach. You high five through the
High fiving, man. High fiving.
You know, I love that we talked about it in terms of that community. I was going to say, who should we connect with? And again, it was going to, my response is going to be very aligned to these ladies, because it's about that community that you are working with. And no man's an island. You can't have impact and influence. And you said that, I was like, all right, we're friends. Let's have some coffee, virtual. Let's talk. Because people forget, we are always modeling.
Yes.
What our version of the good life is, our version of whatever. I mean, we're always modeling. We're always modeling to our kids, people around us. So we're a reflection of what they're saying and doing and how we're taking that and all that good stuff. And so, you know, being that person in the community that lifts others and being around people who are willing to lift you. So I would say that your wealth expands because your visibility expands because of your interconnectivity with another set of cells moving forward. I just love what you said about, you know, what's your secret sauce? And like, you broke it down to like where people to see the story, which I just love, because you asked Monica, I love stories. And so you have the story, and I just tell good stories. So I love being with people who can be around, like, you know, really can shift into those stories and tell that, because it is about just lifting up your community and modeling that good life, that wealthy life, so that others are like, you know what, she's doing something. I think we should do it like that because she's doing it like that. Or, you know, and I always want to be around people that push me, you know, let me add that little tidbit. So Laura, what's my tidbit from you? Better stories.
You know, it's cool that you talk about that, because what you're saying literally is, what is up, women? Why aren't you trailblazing the path? Right? That is what you're talking about. And I love that. That's like,
and you know what? And the thing was like, be seen and be controversial. And I was like, I was having in my meditation this morning, this may be a little off topic, but I'm going to tell a story right now. So in my meditation this morning, I was grappling with, Andrea, you have to share more stories. So you were preaching to me just right now. It's almost as if during my meditation, I didn't know I was going to meet Laura and she was going to talk about story, because I was really wrestling with how much of the story do you share to motivate and move people. So thank you, Laura. Universe said, I'm going to introduce you to Laura today. And she's going to be like,
Awesome.
tell a damn story. So thank you. I have to get off this and do a whole live. So I now have my inspiration. So thank you.
Sweet.
Well,
You're very welcome.
that's exactly it. That's exactly what this question's about, right? Like, who should we connect with to increase our wealth as a leader in our business? And the truth is, literally everyone can give you some sort of inspiration to keep moving forward and keep growing. So what's funny is, so Irina is she's a trainer at MinkLife Motivation, and she is also going through the incubator right now with all of us as we're like incubating our businesses. And most of the time, Irina comes in with 1,001 questions. She is the questioner extraordinaire. She has a question for everyone. I have a question, right? It's like the pose that I see her in my head at all time, right here, raised hand. I have a question. And what was amazing about working with her last week is I had a problem in my own business of how to get subscription services happening. And she asked me a question, and by answering her question, helping her with her question, I found the answer for myself. So the reality is that you, as a leader, you should just be connecting with people who you're helping, with people who can help you, and creating that community, like Laura was saying, being in a community where you can create impact daily with each other so that you can actually increase your wealth. By me helping her, I figured out how to get my subscription service thing, and also learned that I can do QR codes with the same app that I had been using for sadly 10 years already, and didn't know that it could do it, right? Because I helped her with something, right? So as a leader, you want to stay curious. You want to be like Irina, ask all the questions, keep asking questions, and be open to the feedback, both good and bad, of course, like Laura was saying, but then also just understanding that the connection, I'm going to quote our friend Colleen, connections are key, right? And the more you connect with people on all fronts, I've learned so much from Cleo. I've learned so much from, who's Andrea's daughter. I've learned so much from Ron Stafford, who is, I've never met in person, but lives vicariously through Peggy. So, all of those connections really are a wealth for you as a leader, and you can really increase your profitability and your growth in your business just by staying connected. Irina is laughing so hard, guys.
It's so true, though. You learn so much more when you teach. If you want to grow, if you want to be better at what you do, teach it, because you're going to learn more when you teach. That's one of the main reasons I love you.
Yeah. You really, I can totally, you just press my buttons, Peggy. I'm going to tell you a story, and Andrew's like, yes, another story. So it was funny because when I started in martial arts, I was very young. I was 19, 20, right? I'm 54 now, so it was a long time ago. And I joined the school, and I had no idea what was going on. So I would go to class, but our dojo, our school, was so new that there were only 4 or 5 people every day, and we would go 5 days a week. And so I'd been going for 3-4 weeks, and the teacher's I got an appointment in the morning, and the class was killing me because it was 6 to 7 a.m. in the morning. It was 3 years of my life I never want to go back to, right? But the fact of the matter was, she's like, can you teach? And I look at her, I'm like, I don't even have my first belt rank, right? I'm like, no. She's like, well, you're the most senior person here, because it was a new dojo, right? And so, sometimes you're just thrown into the fire, right? So be willing to be baked and molded and create more about yourself. So I went up there, and I was totally upfront with the students. I'm like, I only know 3 more weeks of stuff than you do, so let's just figure it out, right? And we had this great class of conversation and techniques, and so she asked me the next day, and she's like, well, how did it go? I'm like, it wasn't absolutely horrible. And she goes, well, that's great, and she came up to my armpit. She's this little woman, and she was a 4th degree black belt, and I'm like the little white belt, right? I since have my 5th degree, but the fact of the matter was, it's like you just don't know people's potential, and so be willing to like step into the fire and see what happens. So I love what you said, Monica, about that. Like, it's just like, go for it. You just don't know. And by teaching, I learned so much more. I knew what I didn't know, which Peggy was talking about, and I also saw the possibilities of what else could be.
Yes.
And that's something I would have never seen if I wasn't up in front of the class. So I just wanted to kind of add that point on. I think it's really cool.
And I'm gonna chime in, and then we're gonna move on because the clock is ticking. I can see this is one of those long calls. This is gonna be one of those long shows, guys. Buckle up. But the other thing about teaching that even when you feel like you're unprepared to be the teacher is you are so unprepared at that point that you're going to do the work to make sure that you're not looking crazy. You'll do the work way more when you don't know the subject than you do when you do know the subject. You're going to over prepare, you're going to over research, you're going to over look into all of the things because you don't want to look like a excuse my French, jackass in front of everybody when you get up there to teach them. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna be prepared. And so I when we're helping people kind of launch their programs, we're like, put the date out there. Don't change the date. Just change your work ethic before the date, right? Like just get in there and do the work so that then when the date comes, you don't look like a crazy, right? And that's just it. It's exactly it, Laura. It's like you learn so much more from teaching than you do from trying to make something perfect and it not being expressed outwardly. And you also learn so much from the feedback when people are learning and they'll be like, and this would be great if, and then they give you all the next steps, right? And so absolutely. Oh my God, Laura, I don't know what we did, but I think we might have another friend to the show that will make all of our shows long. But to finish out, our last little segment is gain knowledge. And that's really what we want to do here at MinkLife Motivation. We want to help you really kind of go away with something that actually you can use. So we always end the show with one tip, make it short and sweet, on how you can expand your understanding about being wealthy. That should be wealthy. Yes. Andrea, go first.
I'm going first because I want to get this answer out first. It's my standard answer. And it's that curiosity about what you really, really want is the basis of everything. So I get to put the curiosity point out today about stay curious, get curious, and be curious about what you already thought you knew, and be curious about the worst thing you could ever say to yourself. I love this is I already knew that. Resist that so deeply, you will have an abundant life no matter what.
Yeah, I can see why you tried to jump out there first, Heffa.
It's like,
all right. Peggy, what's your one tip?
My one tip is don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm going to go in the line of Andrea and just stick with my tip. Ask a dang question. Yeah. Don't be afraid. Especially women are told that they don't know anything about money and that they're not good with money and they can't manage money. Why? Like we do everything else. Why can't we be, investors, and why can't we know money, and why can't we be successful in every area and wealthy in every area of our life? So don't be intimidated to ask, because no one knows until they ask. So ask questions.
Oh, yeah. Love that. Okay, Laura, your turn.
Oh my God, how do I pick one tip? Okay, one tip. Okay, I got it. So I think that it's really important to sometimes destroy your expectations, because they're just, in the end, premeditated disappointments. You're already setting yourself up. So if you can be open to receiving things, wealth, whatever it is, however it shows up, and it takes work. then you are unstoppable. So be willing to receive things however they show up, because if you lock in that it can only show up in a certain way, it's never going to happen. So just let that go and ask the question and leave it out there. And that would be my one tip.
Okay. So I gotta anchor this whole situation, and I'm gonna say, my tip is you're going to have to destroy your ego, and I'm going to give you a tip on how to do that. It's really, really easy. So they kind of already gave you some of the clues to it, right? Andrea was like, get curious. Peggy was like, ask the questions. Laura was like, destroy the expectation. And then I wanted you to fail publicly as often as you possibly can, right?
Oh my God, I'm so good at that.
It gets so excited about failing publicly that it just becomes a part of like who you are. Like, you know what? I'm gonna put it out there, see what happens, right? That is a true tip to becoming wealthier, right? Because most of the time what happens is we kind of don't do something because we're scared we're going to fail and people are going to know it. And that's the ego you're protecting, right? That's the ego you're protecting. So if you can learn, or if you can just throw yourself like the spaghetti on the, to see if it's done, right? Just throw it at the cabinet. Just throw yourself into everything and do it publicly. You're more likely to be successful than to not. So that's my one tip.
We went to church today. Jeez.
I know, right?
Yes.
Such a great show. Laura, oh my gosh.
I love you guys.
New bestie to the show for sure.
Don't be available Wednesdays. Like that, don't be available. Yeah, that means be available.
Oh, yeah. So Yo has been in there. Surrender the when and the how. And she said, great show. So with a little clappy hand. So our audience is loving what we're doing. Irina says, great show as well. Yo says fail, and then she says publicly, sad face. Yeah, so thanks to our co-hosts who are at home from their couches chiming in the chats. We really appreciate you adding your extra color and flavor to the show today. We are at the end where we talk about announcements. So we give you an opportunity to share what it is that is happening in your world, how people can connect with you. So we're going to start with Laura, our guest. What is happening in your world? How would you like people to connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple rooms in Clubhouse. So if you're not in Clubhouse and you need an invite, let me know. One is called the Leadership Warriors Room. So come and join me there. We have great conversations about all things leadership because it's such a big subject. The other one is my room in Clubhouse called the Impact to Income. So we did a summit on this that we do 3-4 times a year, the Impact to Income Summit. We have impactful speakers who have made millions of dollars and they give you their tips. It's just a really great, cool place to be and see. And coming up for me, you can check me out at leadershipwithlaura.com. Email me at laura@leadershipwithlaura.com. I love people, so book some time with me. I'd love to hear more about you and what you do and see how we can collaborate because I'm all about that. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I just had so much joy.
Yay! I love that you have fun. When we have fun, I think the audience has fun too. So I'm so happy you were here to add to the crazy combination of chaos that we bring every week. So let's go with Andrea. What do you have going on? What's new, baby?
Well, let's see. What's new is my Facebook group, Laura. I didn't want to have a Facebook group for forever, ever. So I made one. I am like that recalcitrant leader. So much good stuff today to remind me to show up where I'm supposed to be. So if you want to hear more about being in a well body and living a well life, that whole well-being and worth life, I have a private Facebook group. It's called Weight Loss the Right Way, Being in a Well Body. And I would really enjoy you being over there. I give health tips, a lot of mindset. There are people in there like, I thought this was about weight loss. I'm like, bait and switch. But seriously, it's more about you being well. And I'm going to go live a little bit later today to talk about the 4 pillars of being really well. So I'm really excited for it to start. Is that my audio that's being weird?
I have no idea.
Oh, that was really, really odd. Anyway, so that's my new thing. I'm working on building that group. Laura, I'm going to see you on Clubhouse. Now you give me a reason to want to go. I went away for a while, but I'm going to check you out. You rock.
Right on.
Oh yeah, Peggy, what about you? What's your announcement?
Well, I am going full blast with the Headshot Strategist program. I think the thing I like the most about what I do is watching other people like grasp it and actually use it and bring success to their life. So you can find out all about that and headshots and everything that I do at headshotsbypeggy.com. Also, you can go to my link app, linkapp.com/Peggy, because I'm just that cool. I need one name. And connect with me, set up a virtual coffee meeting or whatever. And let's talk about how you can make an amazing first impression.
Oh yeah. And as usual, MinkLife Motivation, we are doing tours. I don't know what that noise is, but we're going to power through it anyway. That's how you know we're in a live show, right? So we are doing tours. A lot of you maybe aren't quite sure exactly how MinkLife Motivation fits into your life. And I would love to walk you through how we can help you not only identify what you want for yourself and your business, but then also connect you to the right person to help you with the problem that is in your life right now. And I am surrounded by amazing MinkLife motivators who can help you in 24 topics in life, business, branding, and networking. It is an amazing community. You want to join the movement, join the community, be a part of the fun. Take a tour with us. So with that, we are at the end of the show. It's so sad. How do we get here so quickly? But I would like to thank everybody who makes this show possible. So Alana Jackler, who is the voice in the sky sometimes, and also our producer. I would like to thank my guests, Laura Armstrong and Peggy and Andrea as my co-host. And I want to remind you that you have the power to activate the vision within yourself. Don't forget that every week we will be here coming with these live topics on personal development, business development, branding, and networking. Next week, we're talking about branding, or actually we're talking about fulfillment. So we're actually really kind of diving into these topics, but we will see you next week. And remember, sharing is caring. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it to your friends. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, just a little click. Go ahead and share this with us. Thank you guys. We'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.